I'm Bob Hurst, speaking for the Technical Training Department of RCA Broadcast Systems. The presentation that you are viewing is designed to introduce you to the proper procedure for setting up the TK76 portable television camera. These procedures have been carefully tested to ensure that by following them, you can get the best pictures from your TK76 at all times. The presentation is divided into 5 sections. First, we will show how to do a quick pre-operational checkout, which provides a fast check of the major systems of the camera. Then we will discuss the correct method for setting up the color encoder, after which we will demonstrate the right approach for pickup tube adjustment. Yoke removal and pickup tube installation methods will be explained next, and last, we will give a detailed account of how to set up the video systems of the camera. To locate quickly any particular section of this presentation, refer to your training manual for the detailed index located there. Before taking a camera out on a remote, you will probably want to do a pre-operational checkout. In your manual, you will find a list of the tools and equipment needed to perform this checkout, as well as this diagram showing how to interconnect the cameras and monitors for this procedure. First, hook up the cameras and monitors as shown here. Also, if you have a vectorscope available, looping it to the camera output will prove useful, but it's not absolutely essential. Arrange the camera to view the registration chart with about 50-foot candles illumination. Do not apply power to the camera yet. At the front of the camera, adjust the filter selection lever to cap the camera. Here is the control as it appears in early cameras, while in later cameras it looks like this. Set the camera control switches to the following positions: iris, manual; bars, on; sensitivity, 0 dB; power, on. As a first step in the pre-operational setup, we shall check the operation of the color encoder. The color encoder in the TK76 is very stable and seldom needs adjustment. However, prior to operation, it's good practice to check the color bar pattern to determine if it's standard in all respects. Checkpoints to be noted particularly, reading left to right in the pattern, are the white or gray bar amplitude, which should be at 77%. The yellow and cyan bars, whose tops should line up. The green bar, whose bottom should be at picture black, not blanking black. And the red and blue bars, whose bottoms should line up. There should be no subcarrier in the white bar or on the black portions of the picture. The setup should be correct, nominally 7.5%, and the burst and sync should be the correct amplitude. If any aspect of the waveform is non-standard, proceed to remove the left cover plate using the medium Phillips head screwdriver in order to gain access to the touch-up controls. First, if subcarrier appears on the black portions of the bars, then one or both of the black balance controls is misadjusted. To correct this, adjust both I and Q black balance on the chroma module to minimize the subcarrier appearing on black. If subcarrier appears on the white portions of the bars, then one or both of the white balance controls is misadjusted. To correct this, adjust I and Q white balance for minimum subcarrier on white. If the setup is incorrect by being greater than 7.5% or less than 7.5% as shown here, then the black reference pot on the luminance module must be readjusted to pull the setup to the desired value. Similarly, the luminance gain control on this same module should be set to produce a white bar of 77% amplitude. And the sync level pot should be adjusted to produce minus 40 IRE units of sync on the waveform monitor. Back at the chroma module, the burst gain should be set to produce a burst of 40 units peak to peak. The color encoder should now be operating correctly. Check it by re-inspecting the waveform, and if a vector scope is available, check that display also. The waveform checkpoints should all be as described earlier, and the vector scope display should have the vector dots within the small boxes. If any aspect of these displays is still incorrect, then the misadjustment of the encoder is beyond the scope of the simple pre-operational setup, and you should refer to the subsequent detailed sections dealing with encoder setup. Now, with the camera still capped, turn the bars off to begin the setup of the video portions of the camera. First, look at the waveform monitor. If the waveform is as shown here, that is, no subcarrier on the baseline, the red, green, and blue black levels are equal, and no adjustment of them is necessary. If subcarrier is present, however, remove the left-hand cover plate if you haven't done so already, and adjust red-black balance located on the input processor module to minimize the subcarrier, and then adjust blue-black balance to eliminate subcarrier. Alternate the adjustments between these pots to minimize or eliminate the subcarrier. Now uncap the lens, setting the control to the clear position. In the early cameras, try all 4 positions to make sure you have the position with the most light transmission. Remember, to change from one filter position to another requires 1 1/4 turns of this control. Rotate the iris ring on the lens to set the video on the waveform monitor to about 80 IRE units. Press the auto white balance push button on the front of the camera and, looking into the viewfinder, make certain that the cursor which appears is centered over some white object. In about 2 seconds, the cursor should begin to flicker, indicating that the camera is white balanced. To verify that it is white balanced, look for subcarrier on the white areas of the picture. If subcarrier is present, as shown here, the camera misadjustment is beyond the scope of the simple pre-operational setup, and you should refer to subsequent portions of this procedure. If no subcarrier is present, however, the camera is white balanced, and you may proceed to the next step. We next will do a pre-operational check of registration. First, near the rear of the camera, locate the registration switch panel and set the 2 switches there to their R, that is red, and -G, negative green, positions, respectively. Looking at the monochrome monitor, determine if the negative green signal is canceling the red signal uniformly across the screen. Now, move the red-blue switch to the blue position and determine if the blue and -green signals cancel. If these signals cancel uniformly across the screen, registration is perfect and need not be adjusted. However, if the cancellation is less than perfect, the registration must be touched up. To do this, first remove the right side cover from the camera, and with the picture monitor switch in the red position, adjust red horizontal centering, red vertical centering, red width, and red height as needed to produce a registered picture between red and green as viewed on the monochrome monitor. Similarly, with the switch in the B or blue position, adjust the corresponding 4 blue adjustments to produce registration between the blue and green signals. If these adjustments do not produce registered pictures, then the camera's misadjustment is beyond the scope of this simple pre-operational checkout, and you must refer to the detailed registration procedure given in another part of this presentation. One last but important pre-operational setup is the checking of grayscale adjustment. To perform this test, replace the registration chart with a grayscale chart. Aim the camera so that the cursor in the viewfinder falls over the brightest white chip of the chart when the automatic white balance push button is pressed. Hold the button until the cursor begins to flicker, indicating white balance has been achieved. Inspect the grayscale waveform on the waveform monitor. It should have no subcarrier on any of the steps from black through gray to white. The color monitor should likewise display all gray steps with no tinge of color. If this condition is not met, then the camera's misadjustment is beyond the scope of the preoperational setup, and you should refer to the detail section on video adjustments. Now disconnect the monitors, replace the side cover plates, and switch the iris mode switch to auto. The camera is now ready for operation.